Hello, everyone, and happy International Women's Day, which is all the more important because if you look around what is happening to women's rights, especially in the sports and all other positions, you should be very, very worried. Let's take a look at what this festival is and how it originates and how is this year's transits, especially the moon's pathway, support the original idea. So this is what you're going to see. I'm going to share this with you. Hopefully, I can collapse this, and you can take a better look at what's going on. So here's the Pleiades and Aldebaran, and this is a short path crossing the ecliptic. And we call this position the stargate, the golden stargate of the ecliptic. So the golden gate. And the phenomenon or the concept of a golden gate through which you can enter some mythical land or some sort of divine energy, divine space is quite well known in myths and also in fairy tales. In Hungarian, we have a beautiful song which says that the golden gate is open, come in and enter. So the whole idea is that there's a golden gate and through which you can enter a different space, a different reality. And as I said, this golden gate of the ecliptic stretches between the Pleiades and the Hyades. I don't exactly know how. I saw that there are several pronunciations, so forgive me if you pronounce it in a different way. We say Hyadok and Pleiadok, so in Hungarian, and it doesn't really matter. You will see what region it is. But before I actually explain what this is, let's take a look at March 8th, which is the International Women's Day, and which actually is a festival of the international labor movement of all kinds, of course. And in 1917, March 8th was selected for this festival, and it's supposed to commemorate women's equal rights, which is in great danger nowadays. So it's quite interesting. You who know me know exactly well that I'm not by all means a socialist, or I'm not by all means a woke person in any sense. If you spend half your life in a communist country, you never want communism, believe me. So this is something that I never want to call it back, those days and those years. And I'm just totally stunned at what is happening in the United States and in the Western world. And those who think this is a bright idea, please consider the fact that communism and socialism killed 100 million people throughout the world. Let's not forget about this. And just to be on the safe side, there's also an International Men's Day on November 19th, and we celebrate this since 1999. So let's go back to the Golden Gate of the ecliptic. As you see, this is the constellation Taurus, both in the picture and in the actual star map. And here's the constellation Orion or Orion. Both pronunciations again are valid. And above Orion, you see the celestial bull, Taurus, which is an ecliptic constellation. And so it's a sign as well. And above the Aldebaran, the main star of Taurus, around it actually, you see the Hyades. And on the other side of the ecliptic, you see the Pleiades. And if you take a look, these are fairly the same distance from the ecliptic. So that's the gate. And if we go back to the story, or to the myths, they are the daughters of Atlas and Pleione. And the Pleiades are called the Seven Sisters, but Hyades were also daughters of Atlas and Pleione. And there are two sets of stories here. The Hyades lost a sister, and they were so stricken with grief that they couldn't stop crying, and they were dying almost of grief, and they shed tons of tears. And of course, human tears are kind of like the ocean, the drops of the ocean, because they're salty. And finally, Zeus put them on this put them in the sky, elevated them, and ever since they are there, surrounding actually the main star of Taurus, Aldebaran. And on the other side, the Pleiades. This is a much more visible constellation. It is actually, it looks like a mini dipper, a little tiny dipper. And the story goes that they were chased by Orion, the hunter, and they couldn't get away. And so Zeus helped them hide in the sky. And of course, Atlas is the person who was carrying the whole world on his shoulders when after the Vela cataclysm, the axis of the Earth got tilted, and this is that's another story to kind of commemorate what is happening, what was happening after the Vela cataclysm, how the axis of the Earth tilted, and how the seasons were born and we lost our paradise practically. That's another story. There are many such stories throughout the world. Now let's take a look at the astrological degrees of the Golden Gate. It starts with the one of the stars of the Pleiades. I actually put the stars here. So some of the stars, actually 3 of them, Electra, Celano, and Taigata, and even, sorry, this is number 9. Okay, I made another mistake here. Okay, so 4 of the stars are still in Taurus, at the very end of Taurus. You can see that Maya is about to cross Gemini. So it's like 29 degrees 59. And from Merope, which is at 0 degrees Gemini, you have another couple of stars, actually 5, who are already in Gemini. So it's across, this constellation is making a crossing between earthy Taurus, fixed Taurus, to mutable, airy Gemini. So by the time this crossing is finished, the whole of the Pleiades will be in Gemini. And it's quite interesting because in astrological lore, the Pleiades is just a little tiny constellation, actually the tiniest of the constellations, named constellations in the night sky. But in esoteric lore, it has a very special role because it is the home of the creator goddess. And it's interesting, the shift is very interesting, that in the last more than 2,000 years, the whole constellation was in Taurus, and now halfway it is already in Gemini, which is an air sign. So from Earth, we go to air, and the same shift you can see with the Jupiter-Saturn conjunction, which made the shift from a 200-year Earth conjunction to it just started an air conjunction. So from now on, it's going to be in air. So from Earth to air, the shift is from the more practical, down-to-earth things to the more airy, cerebral things. So we'll see what it will mean once it's happening fully. And here you see the brightness as well. Okay, so Pleione is it's a variable star, but the average brightness is 5.9 magnitude, and it means that it's barely visible. The rest are quite bright, and you can see them in the night sky. So if you go back to the astronomical facts, so the Pleiades stretch about a degree, coming from Taurus 2943 till, actually there's a 0 here missing, sorry. Okay, till Gemini 0 degrees 41, and the Pleiades, at the other side, is stretching from 5 degrees to 9 degrees Gemini. And the sun covers this distance between May 20th and 30th, so about 9-10 days. And if you consider the energy pattern, the weather pattern, what is happening here on the northern hemisphere, this is the height of spring, when everything is blooming. you never see as many colors, and you never sense as many scents in the air. It's really, everything is bursting with energy and color and brightness and life. So it's a very interesting period, and this is when the sun is crossing it. But on the March 8th, it's the moon who is going to cross it, and it starts with Algol, which is Beta Perseus. And I'm going to tell you the story in a minute, but this is actually the healing world for Lilith things, the Lilith misery, let's put it this way. This is where it starts. And then it crosses the Pleiades, and by next morning, it reaches the Pleiades. So let's take a look at the, and actually it's the waxing moon, because there was a new moon on a couple of days ago, and you can see the crescent moon on March 7, and then it's waxing further, and on March 8 it's still the crescent moon. It's not yet first quarter, but the moon's energy, the brightness is growing. So, and that's the distance it's going to make. So let's take a look at the astrology. Around noon on the 8th, or in the morning, in the late morning hours, the moon is reaching the North Node, crossing over the North Node, highlighting our destiny choices. And then also, of course, it's going to reach Sedna, but in the meanwhile, it's going to cross over, or will be aligned with Algol, Beta Perseus, which is the head of the Medusa. And this is a very negative star. And I use the word negative because that is the astrological lore, that stars can be negative. Unfortunately, or luckily, there's no such thing. Just because we label something negative doesn't mean that we can actually label it in the right way. Don't forget that fixed stars are not part of the solar system. They're not part of the normal human levels and existence. They are part of the universe, okay? So it's a much higher energy pattern. It is a much higher understanding as well that requires from us to make adjustments and to the accepted belief system, let's put it this way. But if you consider the story of Perseus and Medusa, Medusa is a figure with snakes in her hair, and every time someone looks at her, she turns that person into stone. And too many people are turned into stone, so the gods and goddesses decide that this must end, and they select a hero, Perseus, to whom they give all sorts of things: swords, a sword, for instance, a shield, a very bright shield. Pluto gives him his shield that is making, so the helmet that is making him invisible. Hermes gives him his little shoes that can fly. So you know he's equipped with all sorts of magical things, and so he actually goes into the garden where Medusa lives and turns his shield towards her. She sees her own reflection and is turned into stone. And here comes the interesting part. Then Perseus cuts his head, puts it into a sack, and from then on, he's using Medusa's head to turn his enemies into stone. So can you see the symbolism of the story that, okay, Medusa couldn't use her own head to turn people to stone, but once her head is cut off by a hero, the hero can go ahead and use her severed head as a weapon against his enemies. This is exactly what's happening if you look around in the world, with the war going on and with the sanctions going on, and with the mainstream media pushing one narrative and one narrative only. It's just that's exactly what's happening. Okay, but if you look at the star Algol, it's a unique star because it's actually two stars, two main stars, and they lately discovered a third one. So there's Algol A and Algol B. And these are, so it's a binary system. Actually, as I said, there's a third one, which I couldn't find any pictures, I can't show you. But these two main stars are kind of crossing around each other, and not just crossing, because they have, I believe, a 68-hour orbital period, and so the brightness intensifies sometimes, and then is kind of tuned back. But what's interesting is that there is an interaction between the two stars. One is feeding the other, and then the other is feeding back the first one. So it's like it's a very unique concept of kind of like a couple helping each other, giving energy to one, and then the other one is growing, and the other one, the one is shrinking, and then the one that has grown gives energy back to the one that has shrunk. So it's a very unique interaction between the two stars. So here's Medusa, and that is what is happening in the morning, or morning around noon. That is the space that the moon is highlighting. And then in the evening, it reaches the Pleiades and crossing over the degree of the Pleiades, shifting from Taurus into Gemini. And then here's the Pleiades, and here's the Seven Sisters. And as you can see, it really looks like a little dipper, a tiny dipper. The main star is Alcyon, so that's the one that you actually can always find, because it really looks like, if you don't have good eyes, or the sky's a little bit murky because of light pollution or on any other pollution, you don't actually see the dipper form. You can actually find Alcyon, and around it some dim little lights. So it looks like a star, like a nebula, something like that. And this is in the next morning, by the 9th, the moon reaches the Pleiades or Hyades, I don't know how to pronounce them, sorry. And so between the 8th and the 9th, the moon actually effectively crosses the Golden Gate and is entering other regions of the ecliptic, and reaching Aldebaran, which is one of the royal stars of Persia. It's another unique star, a very bright yellow star. Here you can see the Pleiades and Aldebaran, and this is how it looks like from if you take a picture through the telescope. And as I said, this is one of the royal stars of Persia. If you have stuff around Gemini in 9 degrees, maybe 10 degrees, you have this star prominent in your natal chart. You can see this is an enormous red giant. This is our sun. Just imagine the difference between the two. And Aldebaran, as a royal star of Persia, the watcher of the East, is also responsible for luck and success, but you need to avoid its nemesis, which is keeping your integrity. So never give up if you have this star prominent. Never cut corners. Pay attention to what is happening around you, and pay attention to your own heart's integrity. Do what is necessary. Don't do what other people want from you, and be true to yourself. That's the message of Aldebaran. Happy International Women's Day, and hope that we can go back to the original idea of equal rights and equal chances and equal opportunity, and hope we don't give people who were born male and have a male physique and male bone structure, and we don't give them opportunity to win over us in sports events and in other territories. Happy International Women's Day. Bye-bye. Thank you for listening.